Hear about slavery for 400 years. For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is blacks.
They hit him with the fentanyl. If you look, the guy's knee wasn't even on his neck like that. When he said mama, mama is his girlfriend. They said he screamed for his mama. Mama was his girlfriend.
Well, Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had the slaves go work for other white people.
It's a slogan of the racist right wing, responding to our attempt to elevate black lives to be taken seriously. It is not a decontextualized free talk. Kanye West's move, White Lives Matter, affirms the white right wing against Black Lives Matter.
Siyawuthatha umhlaba siyawuthatha. 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 Amandla.
Welcome to another podcast. Andile Mngxitama speaks. Please subscribe, share the content so that more people are aware of what we're doing here. This podcast is primarily meant to provide a black perspective on events which are happening, and also sometimes to provide a prediction of what will happen to black people politically and socially and otherwise. So we share these perspectives to help us understand the world and also to create an ability to read the world, an anti-black world, so that we are able to negotiate this world and hopefully with time develop a shared perspective so that our practices are informed by that perspective and black unity becomes possible. Not only that, but we as black people develop an internal mechanism to quickly react to situations of threats against our interests. You know, the white system, what it has done, it is to basically kill the internal mechanism of black people to react. Somebody said we're a little bit like a rat which has been given the education and the perspective of a cat. We no longer are aware of the fact that we are rats in that sense. We believe ourselves to be cats. And here's the problem, of course, that when a cat is hungry, when it looks at us, it sees food. But when you look at the cat, because we have lost our natural instinct of survival, we see a friend that looks like us from our perspective. And you know what that means? We become easy lunch for the cat, because we are not cats. We are in a world which is very dangerous to black interests and black perspectives. And as a black people, we have therefore globally to develop a mechanism which must be so internalized that we are able to react almost as one against all situations that threaten our interests. That is a black perspective which is pro-black, which makes sure that we develop awareness of dangers against black people. Because the whole situation of slavery and colonialism, primarily it attacked our senses of being black. And It has worked our souls, our minds, even our feelings. We are anti-black almost automatically without realizing it. So today we're going to discuss Brother Kanye West, Brother Ye. You know, this man and his ways have created such a big rift in the black community. Precisely because we don't have a unified perspective for reading situations, we end up, when something like this happens, at loggerheads with each other. A lot of us responds by saying, because the white system is attacking Ye, we must all shut the gates and protect him, which is, of course, the natural process that we must adhere to. However, we need to then know how to deal with those amongst us who perpetuate the anti-black situation and systems. Because you can be black, be a victim of white power, but still be anti-black. So how do we respond to that situation? Let us look at a few of the sins of Brother Ye against black people. And then we'll discuss the response of whiteness to Brother Ye and how we should navigate that situation. You know, this man, one of the biggest sins for me is when he insulted Mother Tubman. You know, Tubman is the mother who during slavery risked life and limb and liberty by organizing to liberate slaves in that underground rail situation. You'd come to a farm, a plantation, talk to slaves, organize them, and tell them at a certain time we are going to leave. And of course, her position was those slaves who don't want to go must be actually executed. Tubman has liberated thousands of slaves. Think about it. It is dangerous. It is life-threatening. It needs bravery. It needs organizing. It needs capacity to read situations. And this mother was gifted with all those gifts. And she took trouble to liberate slaves. Here comes our brother Kanye West and insults this icon of our revolution and liberty. He says that she liberated no one. I mean, really. You see, Kanye West trades in controversy. In other words, he packages and commodifies, particularly anti-black controversies. Because then we talk about him, then his standing and his value increases on the basis of these controversies. Therefore, he doesn't care, even if it means taking black pain, packaging it as a commodity for sale to advance his own name and his own value, he'll do so. That makes him a proper sellout. He's a man who trades in black pain. How can you possibly say something like that? That Mother Tubman, Harriet Tubman, liberated no one, when we all know how she sacrificed, how she organized, and how she pulled out our people from slavery. For me, it is unforgivable, but it creates, again, a big controversy which only served to put Kanye West's name up, and the Black Project suffered. And then, of course, his second biggest sin is to suggest that slavery was a choice. Slavery was a choice. Now, if we think about the millions that died, the millions black bodies which are planted at the bottom of the Atlantic, we were hunted as animals here in the African continent, with the assistance, of course, of some sellouts. Because the white people would not have known where we are hiding, what is our capacity, if they did not have informants amongst us. Those informants worked with white people. White people came here with guns, were taken by force. It was the most traumatic human experience. How can you say we had a choice? I mean, we know, for instance, that in the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust, there were some Jews who worked with the Germans. But never will you hear a Jew saying the Holocaust was a choice. How could it be a choice? Those kings, African kings, who refused to work with the enslavers, were executed. They came here with guns. Of course, they came here with money as well to bribe those who can be bribed. But really, if you refuse to be bribed, they brought bullets. So, there is no way one can excuse an articulation that suggests that slavery was a choice. We chose to be enslaved. Really? I mean, that also shows lack of appreciation of the historical accounts of just how much resistance was there against slavery. On the continent, on the ships themselves, including when we arrived in the New World. We resisted, but of course we're defeated. We know there's this story which is remade in that Lemonade album of Beyonce. The image, very evocative, of black people getting submerged into the ocean. Getting submerged into the ocean because they chose death. They chose to die than to be enslaved. But that was the real option, to die or to be enslaved. Now others did not choose to die. They went into slavery, of course, with the hope that this nightmare happening to them is not real, and that somehow our gods and our kings will come and liberate us. It was not a choice. It is a serious insult to the black sorrow and pain. It is outrageous that anyone could suggest that slavery was a choice. But of course, for Kanye West, nothing is sacred. Everything is available for sale. And that controversy itself was good for his business. But of course, it undermines the memory of those who perished in the long nightmare of slavery. We cannot at all tolerate and play games with this serious situation of slavery because we want controversy, generate controversy which can be packaged for sale to make profits. Then, of course, we know that recently he went on the All Lives Matter with that crazy reactionary Kanye. You see, again there, it was a fashion week. The whole global media is there. And Brother Kanye put on this slogan, which is generated by the right wing. Of course, it is very important to understand the context of things, because he tried to minimize this by saying his father called him and he says, yeah, he understands, because he states the obvious. So it's as if somehow this is a progressive resistance to whiteness, to affirm whiteness, which is already affirmed, to prove the point that white is affirmed. But of course, we know that all lives matter happens in a very particular situation. The context is of the Black Lives Matter. And the white right wing responded to Black Lives Matter with White Lives Matter. It's a slogan of the racist right wing responding to our attempt to elevate black lives to be taken seriously. It is not a decontextualized free talk. Kanye West's move, White Lives Matter, affirms the white right wing against Black Lives Matter. And of course, we know that with Candy Owens, they went after the corruption of the Black Lives Matter movement, the corruption of that leadership, and basically turned the corruption of that leadership into an erasure of the movement itself. No one does that. We do not condemn a movement on the basis of the actions of his leadership. And to affirm precisely the thing that they are trying to fight against. He did not stop there, our brother Kanye. He went further, and I mean, this is really, really painful. To say that George Floyd was killed by drugs. I mean, really. We all saw, it was played over and over again in our television sets, online. The fact that the white racist police had put his knee on the neck of Brother Floyd. We know that that slogan, "I can't breathe," became an organizing proposition. Not only that, a white jury has sent these white men to jail. They have been found guilty of murder. How can Kanye come and say George Floyd overdosed on drugs? How is this possible? How is this erasure? How is this defense of white racism, of white violence against the black body coming from a black man? Of course, he'll do so because he says white lives matter. So his defense of these white cops that killed a black man is consistent with his affirmation of white lives. There is no other reading if we read in context of what is happening. And take that together with the attempt to tarnish the whole, denigrate a whole movement on the basis of the corruption of its leaders. We all are against corruption. But we can't use corruption of certain black individuals to justify violence and death against black people. We know that the white world has responded to Kanye, of course, when he started talking about the Jewish control of the world. Quickly, when he was attacking black people, nothing happened to him. In fact, he was valorized as a very smart guy by the white world. But as soon as he transgressed, he, I suppose, as a consequence of being affirmed by whiteness so much, he believed that he has reached the status of untouchability. And therefore he thought he could make correct critical comment on the Jewish power. And he was wallowed. The consequences are major against him. Overnight like that, he was reduced from being a billionaire into becoming a $400 million worth. Of course, that also shows just the power of whiteness. That without Adidas losing any stock in terms of reduction of the total value of the company, whom he has put so much money in terms of projected income. Nothing happened, but they reduced his value. They removed him from being a billionaire. I see now P. Diddy is now considered a billionaire. And of course, P. Diddy never says anything controversial. He plays it safe. I suppose they consider him a good replacement of Brother Kanye West. So what does this mean? If a black person offends against us as black people, then comes under attack from the white system, which, when he offended us, was affirming. What do we do in that situation? Because the white system attacks all black people. It attacks sellouts, it attacks revolutionaries, it attacks black people who are just walking in the street. It is an offensive system. So what do we do? Black First Land First has come out with a code against sellouts. And that code, I believe that every household must discuss it. You must discuss it even with your girlfriend or boyfriend. This black code against sellouts. Because the white system perpetuates itself all the time by creating a group of sellouts. And we black revolutionaries end up spending all our time fighting against the black sellout. Of course, the black sellout is dangerous. It might kill you. It might get you arrested. It undermines the revolutionary program. However, if we always just react against the black sellout, we'll never ever be able to reach the white quarters. Take the example of South Africa. Under apartheid, during the negotiation period, when the nationalist government, the racist government, wanted to weaken the ANC, it unleashed violence against black people. It worked with the Inkatha Freedom Party. Black people were attacked in trains, were attacked in our homes. There were massacres in the Vaal, where men armed, black men armed by the South African racist government came into the township to kill women, children, men. And the response of the liberation movement at the time was to create the self-defense units, which were township-based, which were organized to come head on against the possible attack by these black men who are armed, trained. You know, it was a paramilitary situation. Some of them were literally trained in the previous Strip. They were trained. There were white men that came even from outside South Africa to train and arm the Inkatha Freedom Party, which of course had the South African government, the racist South African government, which was negotiating with the ANC. The racist government knew that the ANC in the negotiations was not going to move easily. But if they create so much violence in the black community, the black community may get alienated from the ANC. I mean, they have done this in Nicaragua, for instance, where they were able to bring so much violence. The Americans brought so much violence in the Nicaraguan society to the point where the people were saying to the revolutionary forces of Nicaragua, please stop the revolutionary process, accept any deal. And when the election came, people were so scared that violence will escalate if the reactionary wing lost. So much that some people actually voted for the reactionary wing in the hope that that will bring peace. So the South African government, remember, it was also closely working with the same man who was exporting American violence into Nicaragua, Reagan. And so in South Africa as well, the same system they tried to create, where you create so much black-on-black violence that black people will abandon the ANC with the hope of peace. Now, the point I'm driving is we end up fighting amongst ourselves. This is how the white system works. Even with this Kanye situation, he's offended us and they are taking him, and we are put in a very difficult situation where we have to come to his defense. We as black people have to work out the mechanism of dealing with sellouts without harming ourselves. Because the system that we are against does not care if you are a revolutionary or you are a sellout. If you are black and they believe you are a problem, they come for you. And all black sellouts ultimately get attacked, by the way, all of them. Even here at home, somebody like Herman Mashaba, somebody like Mmusi Maimane are good examples of how the white system will treat them. We are at war globally against this system of white power. And we cannot therefore afford a situation where some of us strengthen the enemy, just like Kanye West has done. We must condemn him vehemently. We must condemn him without reservations. We must reject him for doing so. And of course, when he has repented and when he has asked for forgiveness, because we can't just provide a defense to a sellout. A sellout must stop harming us, must ask for forgiveness and repent. And then we as black people, we are obliged to accept the apology and to defend the sellout who has repented. There must be a conditionality. We cannot just accept people who are continuing to support the anti-black system for their own personal interests. When they come into trouble from their masters, whom they have not rejected, and we're expected to defend them. There is a condition. You have to ask for forgiveness from black people, and you must repent from your anti-black ways. So Kanye West, we know that he has come to some realization, and he says when he lost money, he came to the realization that his harming of black people or whatever he said against black people was wrong. And therefore he asked for forgiveness. So he asked for forgiveness because he's come under attack by the system that he speaks for against black interests. He has not said anything about what he said around slavery. He has not said anything about what he said about Umama Tubman. He had not said anything about rejecting that slogan of White Lives Matter and the damage it causes to black people. And of course, you know, this stuff around Brother Floyd, for me, I can forgive Kanye for everything, but that is just unbelievable. Because it was a death, a very public execution of a black person. And Kanye West comes and tells us that Floyd died from drugs. Even if he was taking drugs, if there was no white knee on that brother's neck, he would have lived. We don't know for how long. It was not up to the white cops to do that. And we cannot at all tolerate the defense of whiteness when it offends against us as black people. We hope that Kanye West has learned his lessons. And we hope that he will not continue with his economy of commodifying the black pain to make a profit. Because it is clearly his most preferred point of production for a profit. And that must be also a lesson to all of us who are involved in the processes of commodifying black pain for our individual advancement. Izwe lethu.
Siyawuthatha umhlaba siyawuthatha. 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 Amandla. Thank you very much.
And we must be worried and concerned that African leaders associate themselves with these powers in this manner. It therefore suggests that the African rule is operating as a subordinate force to the bigger powers to which they bow to which they pay allegiance to, through these rings, and in the case of Nelson Mandela, actually going into a ceremony and dressing up like one of them.